Hi, you are about to engage in the guidebook unit Call of the Wild. The purpose of this video is to learn about the climate and geography of Alaska and Western Canada, where most of the story's action takes place. Be sure you have your handout and something to write with for the video. Imagine traveling outside in a place where frigid, dark, icy winters last for most of a year, and you have no heat or cozy fireplace. Could you do that? This was a reality for hopeful gold miners during the Klondike Gold Rush, which took place in Alaska and Canada in the late 1800s. As you read about it in the novel called The Wild, gold prospectors faced constant danger as they navigated mountains, rivers, and snowy trails in search of gold. So where exactly does the story take place? The Klondike Gold Rush happened here, in a region of southeastern Alaska and northwestern Canada. Most travelers started along the coast of Alaska and made their way to Dawson, in Canada's Yukon Territory. This area is known for both its mountains near the coast and the rivers and lakes beyond the mountains. In the late 1800s, when the gold rush occurred, there were no highways, railroads, or bridges to take travelers through the mountains and across the rivers. Instead, people had to travel however they could. Many chose to simply walk across the wilderness. Others were lucky enough to have horses and mules or dog sleds. In the book Call of the Wild, the characters must contend with everything from icy waters to snow-covered mountains to temperatures well below zero as they travel through this wilderness. Let's look at a few descriptions of the climate and the geography from the book. In one sentence, the narrator explains, but a cold snap was on, the thermometer registering 50 below zero. In another scene, the characters must travel across frozen rivers. The text states, the 30-mile river was comparatively coated with ice. Even the summers could be cold. The author describes, they went across divides in summer blizzards, shivered under the midnight sun on naked mountains, between the timberline and the eternal snows. Let's move on to learn more about the geography and the climate that created some of the adventures and conflicts in the book. When many people think about Alaska and Canada in the winter, one of the questions that come to mind is, just how cold is it? The answer? Pretty cold. In Dawson City, the city in the Yukon Territory of Canada, where the Klondike Gold Rush takes place, the average temperature in the winter is 26 degrees below zero. Keep in mind that in the late 1800s, people had no central heating. If you wanted to warm up, you needed to put on an extra layer of clothing and build a fire. People involved in the gold rush and many characters in the book travel through the winter, meaning they sleep outside with nothing more than a tent to keep them warm at night, if they're lucky. Let's read this sentence from Call of the Wild to learn about how the extreme cold affected one of the main characters when he tried to sleep at night. A chill wind was blowing that nipped him sharply and bit with a special venom into his wounded shoulder. He lay down on the snow and attempted to sleep, but the frost soon drove him shivering to his feet. Miserable and disconsolate, he wandered about among the many tents, only to find that one place was as cold as another. That sounds pretty cold. So, how dangerous was this journey really? The mountains posed major risks because gold seekers were traversing high mountain tops dotted with slippery rocks and steep cliffs, which increased the risk for injury and deaths. Many travelers had to carry their gear, hundreds of pounds of it, themselves. They faced long, hard climbs, such as this famous climb up the Chilkoot Pass. Also, the heavy snowfall made avalanches a real risk. An avalanche occurs when huge piles of snow come loose and fall down a mountainside, crushing and burying anything and everything, including people and animals, in the way. In the valleys, the traveling was not always smooth either. These valleys were filled with lakes and rivers. Many people tried to make boats to ride down the rivers, but the rivers often had fast-moving rapids that made travel difficult, if not impossible. Imagine going through these rapids on a raft you've made yourself. Wrecks were common. In the spring and fall, the rivers could be covered in thin ice, creating a constant threat of breaking through the ice to freezing waters beneath. Finally, negative effects from extremely cold temperatures, including frostbite and hypothermia, both dangerous conditions that can lead to the loss of fingers, toes, arms, and legs, and can even cause death. Now that you've seen where much of the action and adventure in the story takes place, you are ready to make some inferences about the dangers in this area. What dangers do people searching for gold face because of the Alaskan and Canadian geography and climate? Pause the video to record your answers on your handout at the first stop sign, then press play when you are ready to continue. You probably recall that gold prospectors faced obstacles such as high, rocky mountaintops and steep climbs and avalanches. They also had to contend with many icy rivers, which could lead to wrecking boats or falling through thin ice. Finally, the cold temperatures could also lead to the dangerous, painful conditions of frostbite and hypothermia. Another issue that travelers had to contend with was only having a few hours of sunlight a day. Dawson City only gets about 4 hours of sunlight every day in January. Let's watch a time-lapse video that shows how low the sun stays in the sky throughout many winter days in Fairbanks, Alaska, not too far from Dawson. Pause this video and click on the embedded video link. When the video ends, return to this video and press play to continue. Did you notice how long the sun stayed low? For travelers, this meant that much of the journey had to be done in the dark. People couldn't count on the sun to warm them up in the frigid temperatures. The short winter days affected travelers in several ways. For one, they had to choose traveling just a short distance each day or traveling a longer distance in the dark. Traveling in the dark over mountain cliffs and icy rivers was a dangerous choice. In addition, getting very little sunlight can affect people's moods, causing problems like depression and unhappiness. The harsh conditions made some people feel angry or desperate, sometimes even resulting in robberies, murders, and suicides. Now that you have heard about the dangers that the climate and geography pose for gold seekers, try to imagine what someone would need to carry with them as they began this journey. Keep in mind that most traveled over 500 miles and the journey lasted many months. Pause this video to record your answers on your handout at the second stop sign, then press play when you are ready to continue. If you guessed it, it's probably on the list. Recommended packing lists for a journey to the goldfields included everything from clothing, 12 pairs of socks, 2 pairs of boots, 1 heavy coat, to blankets and a small tent. Miners also had to carry plenty of food with them, mostly basic necessities such as sugar, flour, oats, and potatoes. The packing list also included some unexpected items, such as 1 can of mustard, a large bucket, and at least 20 pounds of nails. Knowing the dangers that arose from the climate and geography of Alaska and western Canada, where the Klondike Gold Rush took place, will help you gain a deeper understanding of the book called The Wild. When you finish this video, be sure to turn in your completed handout to your teacher.